Right now, as you watch this video, the People's Liberation Army is moving Earth. Tens of thousands of tons of it, and U.S. satellites are watching every shovel. On November 25th, 2025, intelligence analysts confirmed what Pentagon officials have feared for years. China isn't just planning to invade Taiwan, they're building the infrastructure to do it, and they're doing it faster than anyone thought possible. These aren't ordinary military bases. These are invasion launch pads, massive amphibious assault facilities designed for one purpose: to transport hundreds of thousands of troops across the Taiwan Strait in a matter of hours. The clock is ticking, and according to the U.S. Chief of Naval Operations, American sailors in Guam were just told to be ready for conflict now, not in 2027. Now, this is the story of how satellite images revealed China's most closely guarded military secret, and why what happens in the next 18 months could change everything. To understand why China is building these bases, you need to understand what makes Taiwan the most dangerous 110 miles of water on planet Earth. The Taiwan Strait isn't just water, it's a geopolitical powder keg. On one side, the People's Republic of China, a nuclear-armed superpower with the world's largest navy and an economy larger than every nation except the United States. On the other side, the Republic of China, better known as Taiwan, a democratic island of 23 million people that produces 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors. Those chips, they're in your phone, your car, your military's weapons systems. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company doesn't just make chips, it makes modern civilization possible, and China wants it back. Since 1949, when Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist forces fled Mao's communist revolution, Taiwan and mainland China have existed in a state of frozen civil war. Beijing calls it a renegade province. Taiwan calls itself a sovereign nation, the United States. Washington maintains strategic ambiguity, deliberately vague about whether it would defend Taiwan militarily, but ambiguity is ending. In 2021, Admiral Phil Davidson warned Congress that China could invade Taiwan within 6 years. That put the timeline at 2027. In 2023, CIA Director William Burns confirmed that President Xi Jinping ordered his military to be ready to invade by 2027, and just days ago, in November 2025, Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Cottle told sailors in Guam, quote, "Be ready for conflict now. Not maybe, not if, now. Because satellites have revealed something terrifying." Let's start with what satellites can see. Commercial satellite companies like Planet Labs, Maxar Technologies, and China's own Jilin-1 constellation orbit Earth every 90 minutes, capturing images with resolution down to 30 centimeters. That's detailed enough to identify individual vehicles, weapon systems, and construction equipment. And for the past 3 years, they've been watching China build an invasion force infrastructure. The Fujian Province Fujian Province sits directly across from Taiwan. The closest point is just 110 miles. It's China's front line, and since 2022, construction has exploded. At least 7 new amphibious assault bases have been identified along Fujian's coast. These aren't normal naval facilities. They're specialized infrastructure designed for one mission: landing forces on hostile shores. Here's what makes them different: roll-on, roll-off ports. Traditional naval bases load cargo vertically with cranes. These new facilities feature massive ramps where vehicles drive directly on those ships. Think of it like a ferry terminal, but for tanks, armored personnel carriers, and mobile missile systems. Satellite images show dozens of these ramps under construction at Fuzhou, Xiamen, and Zhangzhou. Staging areas, massive concrete pads, some as large as 50 football fields, where thousands of vehicles can be marshaled before loading. In July and August 2025, Reuters reported that the plot conducted amphibious exercises using not just military vessels, but civilian roll-on, roll-off ferries. This is critical. China doesn't have enough amphibious assault ships to invade Taiwan, but it has thousands of civilian ferries. Those staging areas, they're designed to load both. Helicopter forward operating bases. Taiwan's beaches aren't like Normandy. They're limited, only 14 beaches suitable for amphibious landings, and Taiwan has fortified all of them. China's solution: vertical envelopment. Satellite images show new helipads and hardened hangars for attack helicopters and transport aircraft near Longyan and Sami, both positioned to support air assault operations over Taiwan's central mountain range. Underground facilities. Here's where it gets chilling. Thermal imaging satellites have detected heat signatures, consistent with underground construction at multiple sites. These are likely hardened bunkers for ammunition, fuel, and command centers designed to survive Taiwan's preemptive strikes. Some analysts believe they're also hiding submarine pens for China's growing fleet of Type 039 and Type 093 attack submarines. The Pratas Islands and Woody Island by Fujian isn't the only front. The Pratas Islands, also called Domsa, sit 150 miles southwest of Taiwan. They're technically Taiwanese territory, but they're isolated. A single atoll with a small Coast Guard garrison and a 1,500-meter airstrip, and China's encircling them. In September 2025, the Wall Street Journal reported that Chinese state-owned oil companies have deployed at least 12 oil rigs around Pratas Island. But here's the thing, there's no significant oil there. Geological surveys confirm it. So why build rigs? Because oil rigs make perfect forward military outposts. Each rig has a helicopter landing pad, can house dozens of personnel, and provides radar coverage. More importantly, under international law, oil rigs are civilian infrastructure. Attacking them would be a war crime. China's using them as unsinkable aircraft carriers. If war starts, those rigs become surveillance posts, helicopter refueling stations, and anti-air missile platforms. Then there's Woody Island in the Paracel, 750 miles south of Taiwan. China's been militarizing it for years, but recent satellite images show a massive expansion, a 3,000-meter runway capable of handling bombers, new radar installations, and underground hangars. It's too far to directly support a Taiwan invasion, but it's perfectly positioned to threaten U.S. forces responding from the Philippines and Guam. The civilian military fusion strategies. What makes China's buildup uniquely dangerous is hidden in plain sight. Remember those civilian ferries? China's 2015 National Defense Transportation Law requires all civilian ships above a certain size to be built with military specifications. That means reinforced hulls to carry heavy vehicles, standard ramps, compatible with military equipment, communication systems that can integrate with PLA networks. In 2025, China operates over 2,400 roll-on, roll-off civilian vessels. In peacetime, they carry cars and cargo. In wartime, they become the world's largest amphibious assault fleet. Same with ports. Those new commercial ports in Fujian, they're dual use, loading civilian trucks today, tanks tomorrow. Western intelligence calls the civilian military fusion. China calls it smart. Japan's response to the Yonaguni fortress, and everyone's noticed. On November 24, 2025, Japan announced its accelerating plans to deploy Type 12 surface-to-ship missiles on Yonaguni Island, Japan's westernmost point, just 68 miles from Taiwan. China's foreign ministry called it an attempt to provoke military confrontation. Japan called it deterrence. But here's the reality. Japan knows that if China invades Taiwan, Japanese islands are next. The Senkaku Islands are already disputed. Okinawa hosts 30,000 U.S. troops. If Taiwan falls, Japan's defensive perimeter collapses. So Tokyo's building its own fortress, missile batteries, radar stations, and hardened shelters, all aimed at the Taiwan Strait. The pieces are in place. The question isn't if anymore, it's when. So what happens if China actually invades? Let's game it out. Scenario: the 72-hour war. Most war games, including the Center for Strategic and International Studies 2025 simulations, predict the invasion starts with cyber attacks and missile barrages. Taiwan's Air Force gets hit first. Runways cratered, command centers destroyed. In the first 6 hours, Taiwan loses 60 to 70% of its air defense capability. Then come the ships. Those civilian ferries and PLA amphibious vessels swarm the strait under cover of darkness. But here's the problem. Taiwan isn't defenseless. Harpoon anti-ship missiles, coastal artillery, and sea mines turn the strait into a killing zone. CSIS estimates China loses 40 to 50% of its first wave. But they keep coming. Within 24 hours, plot forces establish beachheads. Helicopter assaults seize key ports. And here's where those secret bases matter. Without them, China couldn't sustain the logistics. Those roll-on, roll-off ports, they're pumping reinforcements across at a rate of 50,000 troops per day. Taiwan's military, wow, well-trained, is outnumbered 10-1. Without U.S. intervention, Taipei falls within a week. The U.S. response, that's the nightmare scenario, because U.S. intervention isn't guaranteed. If America enters the war, the costs are staggering. CSIS war games predict the U.S. aircraft Carriers sunk 900 plus U.S. aircraft lost thousands of casualties in the first week's global economic collapse, as semiconductor supply chain shatter bit if America doesn't intervene. The post-World War order ends. Every U.S. ally from South Korea to the Philippines realizes American security guarantees are worthless. China becomes the dominant Pacific power, and Xi Jinping achieves what no Chinese leader since 1949 has managed: reunification. That's why Admiral Cottle's warning matters. The U.S. Navy is positioning itself. The USS George Washington Carrier Strike Group is currently in the South China Sea not on exercise, but on alert. The USS Nimitz just completed salvage operations after the aircraft crashed in suspicious circumstances. And those crashes? Some analysts believe Chinese electronic warfare systems were involved. Neither the Pentagon nor Beijing are talking the semiconductor Armageddon, but there's one more factor that makes Taiwan invasion unthinkable. TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company's fabs in Hsinchu and Tainan are the most advanced chip foundries on Earth. They produce 90% of chips below 5 nanometers, the processors that run AI, advanced weapons, smartphones, and modern cars. If China invades, those fabs get destroyed. Either Taiwan demolishes them to prevent Chinese capture, or they're damaged in fighting. Result: global tech industry collapses. Apple, Nvidia, AMD, Qualcomm, they all go dark. Automotive production stops. Military modernization freezes. One study estimated a Taiwan invasion would cost the global economy $10 trillion in the first year alone. That's the 2008 financial crisis times 5. So where does this leave us? Those satellite images aren't just photos, they're evidence of intent. China isn't building invasion infrastructure as a bluff. You don't spend hundreds of billions on amphibious bases, forward operating posts, and dual-use civilian fleets unless you plan to use them. But here's the paradox: the more obvious China makes its preparations, the more dangerous it becomes to actually invade. Taiwan's fortifying. Japan's militarizing. The U.S. is pre-positioning forces. Every month China waits. The invasion gets harder, which means Xi Jinping faces a closing window. Some analysts call it the 2027 trap, the belief that if China doesn't invade by 2027, they might never invade. Taiwan's military modernization, U.S. weapons deliveries, and Japanese missile deployments could make the invasion militarily impossible by 2030. But the trap works both ways. If Xi believes his window is closing, he might strike sooner rather than risk losing the opportunity forever. And that's why those bases matter. They're not just military facilities. They're declarations. China is saying, we're ready and we're willing. The question now is whether the world is ready to stop them or whether we'll wake up one morning to news alerts saying, PLA forces land on Taiwan beaches, because those satellite images, they're not showing us the future. They're showing us the present. The invasion isn't coming. It's already being built, and the countdown has begun. If you want to understand what happens next, check out our video on how the U.S. Navy would fight China in the Taiwan Strait linked above. And if you found this video valuable, subscribe because this story is far from over. Stay informed. Stay vigilant. This is history in real time, and we're watching it unfold together.